So, I recently saw an early viewing of the Minecraft movie, and I thought it was so interesting that I felt the need to talk about it even though I really shouldn't because it isn't released yet. So, this is the Minecraft movie synopsis leak. The opening shot was just black and white text of the word Minecraft. It wasn't in Minecraft style text or anything, it was just the word Minecraft in white text on a black background, like this recreation I made. The opening seconds after that are the same as the beginning of the trailer. The camera zooms in on this portal looking thing, and then it gets all quiet and shows off a bunch of Minecraft scenery for a while. It tracks Door and Key playing from Minecraft Volume Alpha. I think the opening is the best part of the movie because it's just setting the ambiance and scene and all that. The mood. We meet our main characters. Their names are Natalie, Henry, Garrett, and Dawn. It shows them coming out of the portal, but it never explains how they got there or why. The main characters don't really talk much throughout the entire movie, and the first part of the movie is really just them wandering around, exploring a Minecraft world, very silently, very quietly. I think it was actually the best part of the movie, very ambient and moody, like I said. Honestly, the first 10 minutes or so, not at all what I was expecting from a kid's movie. A lot of long, wide shots of this animated world and these characters interacting with it in various ways, like how they encounter a sheep in a trailer. They come across a waterfall and just look at it for a while, really silent, really quiet, like I said. Eventually, the main character, Natalie, says to the other character, Garrett, that she wants to go home, and she kind of just says this out of nowhere. Garrett says they can't go home, and Natalie responds saying she wants to go back to the real world. Garrett says we can't go back. We're not allowed back. We're never allowed back, and we're never going back because they're not welcome anymore in the real world. This is the closest we ever get to any explanation of why they showed up in Minecraft. It's a very uncomfortable scene, actually, and it really does not feel like it belongs in a kid's movie. Anyways, after that, the main characters meet Steve, played by Jack Black, and honestly, I think Jack Black really actually nailed the role. And I know a lot of people complained about Jack Black being Steve, but honestly, I think that he fits the everyman role of Steve perfectly. He seems like just a decent, generic, good everyman type character, at least at the start, but man, do the other characters not play off him well at all. In fact, it honestly seemed like the other characters were afraid of him or something, or like the entire movie they refused to speak to him for the most part. Like Steve would be asking them stuff like, "Hey, how are you? How did you get here?" And the other characters would be like straight up refusing to speak to him during the movie. And like the kids were hiding behind the adults, like they were really afraid of Steve. This whole movie, it felt really awkward and uneasy for some weird reason. Like, why did it feel this weird? Everyone felt afraid in this movie. Everyone just really felt afraid in this movie. I don't know why. Anyways, Minecraft Steve brings the main characters back to his base where he shows them around and we get some time with them, looking around this fortress and all that. The only thing interesting about this part really is that Steve explicitly tells all of them to make sure they stay out of the basement. This is his only rule. They can never go in the basement. Eventually, the gang go back out exploring because Minecraft Steve wants to show them the villages, but on the way to one, Garrett gets snuck up on by a creeper, which explodes right next to him. This was the point where the film went from weird to fucked up, because it wasn't like a comedic explosion, like, he got knocked down and covered in dust or something, something funny. No, it made the Minecraft explosion sound effect, sure, but it looked really graphic. And Garrett looked like he was cut up and bleeding and black and charred, and worst of all, the fact the creeper spawned in daylight, which is not how Minecraft works. That's not how it works in the game. So that's gonna have to be a point off the movie's score at the very least. The group finally reaches the village, and they are clearly distressed at the loss of their friend Garrett. And Natalie at one point asks Steve if Garrett is okay, but Steve tells her not to worry about that and continues to guide them through the village. Natalie is then looking through one of these random chests in the village, like in one of the village houses. She finds an Eye of Ender, and she shows it to Steve, and he gets really excited and says she found something really important, and he tells her that if they can bring it back to his base, then they can, as he says, complete the Minecraft. However, again, this is not something that can happen in the real game. You see, in Minecraft, Eyes of Ender do not spawn randomly in randomly generated chests. No, that's not how it works, so that's going to be another point off the movie. Anyways, it starts getting close to nighttime in the movie, and Steve says that the monsters will be coming out, so they have to get back to the base quickly. At this point, the story jumps back to Garrett, who is shown waking up after being knocked out by the explosion. He is still covered in soot and dust and ash and doesn't look very good. He initially tries looking around for the others, limping and stuff, Eventually he comes across a minecart on a rail, and not knowing what to do, he gets in it and rides off. It's nighttime now, so the main group led by Steve tries to make it out of the village and back to their base, but it's already dark, so mobs start coming out. They get surrounded in the village by mobs, and it's actually a really intense scene, for a kid's movie. It's quite scary. They have the song 13 from the Minecraft soundtrack playing, and while all these characters are hiding out in different parts of the village, hiding out from zombies and skeletons. Rather intense. Dawn at one point turns to Steve and says that she's scared, but Minecraft Steve tells her that she needs to face her fears and encourages her to confront the monsters. So Dawn steps out from behind the cover and shouts out into a group of monsters that she's not scared anymore. "I'm not scared anymore, I'm not scared of you, come on, come get me, I'm waiting," she says, and immediately gets shot by an arrow from a skeleton. It kills her instantly, and it played the Minecraft classic sound effect, the hit sound effect, as soon as she got hit. I thought that was a nice touch, but yeah. Anyways. Minecraft Steve says, "Oops, guess I was wrong," and laughed, like it was funny or something. Meanwhile, the two kids are horrified and screaming, but Steve yelled at them to all run back towards the fortress. It cuts back to Garrett, riding on that minecart he got on earlier, and he's heading extremely fast in one direction. He can't seem to get off the minecart, and he doesn't know where he's going, so the film just kind of cuts back to him to let us know that he's still there, riding along the minecart. Anyways, back to the main group. It shows them separated, and Henry is alone, searching for the others. He made it back to the fortress, and he's calling out to see if anyone else made it back. "Natalie, Steve," he calls out, searching for them, but he doesn't find them, until he comes across the basement, and thinks he hears something down there. So, thinking that it's Steve, Henry goes down and, checks for him. "Steve? Steve, are you there?" he calls out. "Where are you?" Henry goes down into the basement reluctantly, and this is when the film gets really weird and dark. He comes across a bunch of coffins, and the names on them are names of famous Minecraft YouTubers. Steve suddenly finds him, and yells at him, telling him that he shouldn't have come down here. Then, get this, he takes out a shovel, not like a Minecraft shovel, but a regular shovel, and hits Henry over the head with it and kills him. Then Steve tosses his body in a giant hole in the ground, and as he's finishing up, he comes across Natalie, who has also returned back to the fortress. At this point, she asks where Henry is, and Steve says that he'll turn up eventually, and, Steve asks Natalie if she still has the Eye of Ender. And she does, so Steve tells her that they need to go down to the stronghold to complete the Minecraft. It cuts back to Garrett again, who is still riding on the minecart, and he is still speeding off in one direction while the world around him is slowly starting to degrade and devolve into more abstract, weirder patterns and textures and blocks, and this is because he is riding into the Farlands. You have to have played a bit of Minecraft to know what that is, a bit of the lore behind it. Basically, if you go far enough in the game, eventually the world will start, disintegrating and becoming weird. You have to go really far, but, anyways, this movie is making a kind of weird reference to it here. Anyways, the minecart reaches its end eventually, and Garrett gets out and starts wandering around, and quickly comes across one of these Minecraft troll devices, which, again, you have to have played the game to know what these are. Even then, most players probably might not recognize these things. I mean, it's kind of a device you make in Minecraft where a pressure plate is placed in the middle of these 4 doors, so if you walk into the middle of it, all the doors activate from the pressure plate and they close and you can't escape. Garrett investigates the weird object and he walks into it and obviously gets trapped. The doors suddenly all shut on him like a saw trap or something, and he starts screaming and banging on the door trying to get out, screaming really loudly and intensely, and the scene goes on for a lot longer than you would want or expect. Anyways, the film goes back to Natalie and Steve, who made it to the stronghold at this point, and Steve tells Natalie to put the Eye of Ender into the end portal slot so they can activate the end portal and go to, the end. In Minecraft, that's like the final zone where you fight the boss and all that, and whatever. Anyways, they activate the portal and go through, and they end up in this weird, bleak, fucked up interpretation of the end. Like, it's a really gritty, dark interpretation, where the Enderman are like messed up, weird looking, like bleak, dark, dripping, oozy, messy, cavernous nightmare hell. Like, honestly, it looks like a nightmare. Anyways, Natalie and Steve encounter the Ender Dragon, and, in the game, it's a kind of generic dragon just flying around. Nothing special, really. In the movie, they depict it as this kind of cowering, wimping mess, like a scared little monster in a corner. And then Natalie takes pity on it and is like, "No, don't kill it, spare the poor little thing," and all that. But Steve just was not listening, he wasn't having it, and so he kills the Ender Dragon with his diamond sword, and then he looks straight into the camera and says, "Totally tubular, bro." It was really out of character, honestly. It didn't feel like it fit the rest of the movie. Anyways, Natalie and Steve, they jump into the end credits portal, this thing which spawns after you kill the end boss in Minecraft, and they jump into it and initiate the credit sequence, which, if you don't know, is a notoriously really long poem displayed through scrolling lines of text. And that's kind of the end of Minecraft in the game. Like, this weird poem that scrolls up in this text, in this void. Yeah. Anyways, so these two characters, Steve and Natalie, are floating in this void, seeing this text as it scrolls up past them, just like in Minecraft, and it really is the full poem. It really is the full 10 minutes, and the characters are just sitting in silence reading this text as it scrolled up past them in the void. Natalie starts hysterically sobbing while Steve's eyes start becoming whiter and whiter while he gradually transforms into Herobrine, and as he becomes enlightened through reading the text. Eventually they respawn in the overworld of Minecraft, just like you do after beating the real game, and it turns out that they are in the Farlands, and they happen to come across Garrett, who is still stuck in the troll trap. Garrett obviously begs him to let him out, and initially Natalie wants to, but Herobrine stops her, and says the ominous line, it would only be releasing him back into a bigger prison. Natalie keeps protesting, and keeps trying to convince Steve to let Garrett out of the prison, but Steve isn't listening, and Herobrine refuses. The film ends with Herobrine saying, why don't we just wait here for a little while and see what happens, while the camera pans out with a far shot of the group, with ominous music playing. Overall, a great movie. A really good experience. I think that it's good fun for the whole family. Alright, yeah, I'd recommend everyone check this out. It's really, really,